Hello, Nerdball podcast fans. My guest today is a neighbor friend of mine. Bought my old truck from me a few years ago, so we talked a little bit about that. The nerding out portion of this at the beginning was really good. We talked about documentaries, ones we've seen, what got us into listening to podcasts, and possibly creating a new podcast, which is funny because it's not like I'm busy enough. So it's something we mentioned. Talked about his hometown, where he grew up, how we got to college, why he went to college, and how we got his current job. So it's an all-around good episode. So I can't wait for you guys to listen. So without further ado, here's my guest.
My name's Mike Jacoby, and this is the Nerdball podcast.
This is the Nerdball podcast with Lorenzo Melcher.
Awesome. Thanks, Mike, for coming on the podcast.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I know it's been a minute and been a long time coming, so I appreciate it. And thanks for having me on.
Yeah, before we start, I just want to say, we're recording again here at the Fort Meigs CrossFit Studios. If you want to know any information about what they offer here, they have tons of classes open 7 days a week for any type of wherever skill level you're at. They'll help you out. And check out fortmeigscrossfit.com. Mike, the first thing I want to ask you is, first, how's my truck doing?
It has a dent in it that you've probably noticed. So for context, I bought Lorenzo's old Chevy Silverado, and it's funny because I remember when I wanted a truck that was a little beat up, just in case I would beat it up, and when I bought it from you, it had a little rust on it.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, it was 13 years old.
Exactly. But it was in great condition. And then I think it was about, I don't know, it was less than, maybe it was almost a year when I had it. But I was being stupid, backing up the truck, and had my phone out, what they tell you not to do. And I hear this bump, so I hit my mailbox, of course. And the way my driveway is, it's larger, but it has kind of a an extension, I guess, to the side of it where I put my trash and stuff like that. So if you back, and that's where I park the truck, and if you back straight back, you're going to hit my mailbox. So you have to kind of curve it a little bit, and that's what I did. So
when I saw that, I've replaced that tail light probably 3 times, and then I was always taking it apart because there was a crack in it for a while too, so I'd always had to replace the bulb. So at one point I was like, these screws are not going to hold up in this tail light anymore.
Well, the thing that happened is what caused the dent is, so when I hit the mailbox, of course, broke the mailbox and then cracked the tail light. But what caused kind of the dent on the side of it was when I was driving, because I think I was driving to Wendy's or something, and the tail light kept beating into the side of it, and I'm like, what is going on? And I kept hearing it, and I'm like, all right, it's right down the road. Once I get there, I'm gonna pull over. And by the time I got there, somebody had been following me, and they're like, do you know what's going on here? And I'm like, well, now I do. So I mean, it was like just huge dent. And I got the tail light fixed, but the dent will,
whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
It is good to see it get so much use though, because I use it all the time. We moved several places when I had it. There was always something in there, and every time I drive by, you always have something in that bed.
It's my neighbors call it the local landfill, basically, in the back of that truck. And the thing is, I don't use it very often. Really, all I do is just run trash with it. But I've always as you become a parent and get older, you just accumulate so much crap, and I would always be going with I have an Equinox and a Traverse and 2 SUVs, and it was just never, I always had a truck growing up. That was my first vehicle. It was actually a stick shift S10, and then that finally took a shit. But that was my car throughout going to BG and stuff like that. So I always wanted a truck again, but I didn't want something new. And so it
worked out good.
It worked out great. Yeah.
Before we get into anything else, my first question to everybody is, What have you been nerding out about lately? Something you've been really into, if it's books, movies, TV show, cooking, whatever, some activity, something you're just really into, even if you just started 2 days ago or you've been doing it for years.
Yeah.
Just can't be about your job. Something that I always ask this question to hear what people do to just get away from work.
Yeah. So I'm a big documentary person. So like they always say like documentaries are like the books of movies, and to be honest with you, I don't really read that often.
Yeah.
So
I'm right there. I love documentaries.
Yeah. And so anytime there's a new one, and great thing about Netflix and all the streaming services, there's endless amounts of them. And I feel like I'm kind of expanding in my documentary world. For a long time, I was like a lot of people, is a lot of true crime stuff.
Yeah,
and then I think finally Rachel, my wife, was like, we need to stop watching this because it's just getting weird. And I'm like, after a while you're like, God, this is all it is. And I started watching a lot of documentaries, like more nature and stuff like that. So I feel less like a creep, but it's popular. So
I just watched two this week. So normally me and Andrea watch TV at night. But if we don't have anything going on, like we have regular shows, but they're still on break from the holidays and stuff.
Right.
So we don't have any shows to watch. So I just put on a documentary, and she'll be half, in and out depending on when she's looking at her phone. But I watched the Matt Teo one.
Oh yeah. I watched that a couple months ago,
which was pretty crazy.
It was, and I just remember that whole situation when it happened.
Yeah, I didn't. So when it happened, I just was like, oh, he made everything up.
Right.
But then listening to this documentary, I was like, oh, he didn't do anything.
Yeah,
he was just the only thing he didn't do is come out and say, I was catfished. But who's gonna want to do that? That's embarrassing.
Well, yeah, especially in the height of where he was at, going to the national championship. And I watched it, and when it came out, I thought, or when it first happened, I thought it was more like I kind of laughed about it because it was, it was kind of funny. And then you kind of watch the whole documentary. It's like, it's kind of sad, that he got duped, and the person who did it kind of went through all these crazy lengths. And but that was one that we watched as well, and Rachel was actually interested in it. So
it was cool too, because sometimes you get documentaries and people don't want to talk or be on, which is understandable, but they talk to everybody.
Yes, they did. Yeah.
And it was good to like hear Matt Teo like say everything too. And hopefully it sounds like he's in a good place or whatever, but that could mess you up for years when you go through something like that.
Yeah. And I know he's like very spiritual and stuff in his family and community. So I think that helps. But yeah, that was, when I watched it, it was a little more eye-opening than I thought. Because again, I think when it came out, it was more kind of jokey and, jokes on him type, like how can he fall for it? And then it all makes sense. Yeah. So, but I thought that was a really good one.
I just had a podcast. I always have podcast ideas. I have one that we can talk about a little bit, but maybe at some point, even if it starts with once a month, like, hey, let's watch a documentary and then we'll talk about it.
Yeah. I've had that too. And how long have you been doing the podcast now?
So this part of it, where it's just me and someone, it's been 2 years, but overall, I've been doing it for 3 years because I started with my friend. It was something else.
Yeah.
It was the same name. It was just something else. So I've been doing it for about 3 years.
What got you into it? Just
it was me and him. I listened to podcasts. The very first one I listened to was Serial.
Oh yeah,
that was my first one that got me into it.
Yeah, it was funny because I had this conversation with my brother a couple weeks ago when we were originally scheduled to talk, and I was thinking like, what got me into podcast, and it was Serial.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I remember it specifically because, even though I think it came out in 2015, correct me if I'm wrong on that.
I'm not 100% sure, but about there.
2014, 2015. The reason I remember that is because I bounced around Perrysburg before, getting married, like living in an apartment and stuff like that. And it was funny because when I'm so far behind in like technology and stuff, like I would download it and then burn it onto a CD and then listen to it in my car. Like I would drive around and listen to it in my car. And my brother's like, it was 2015. Why weren't you listening to it on your phone?
Yeah, that is weird. Yeah.
And it's weird. If it weren't for our good friend Tyler, I wouldn't have Instagram. He literally took it, put it on my phone at work.
Really?
And yeah, because I just, and Facebook, same thing. My brother set it up for me. I don't, but I'm on Instagram a lot, but it's getting me to do, actually put the 2 seconds into type in my login. And but
I listened to Serial on a iPod, just a regular iPod. But I think it was. I remember I was so excited because my wife gave it to me as a present, I believe, and I was so excited. So I always take care of it. I had this nice little fake leather case, and then when I take it to work, I'd put it in a sandwich bag, and then have my headphones going through the sandwich bag, so nothing happened to it. But that was the first one that got me into it, and I was like, man, this is cool, So I listened to that. I don't know if you ever listened to Bob and Tom.
Oh yeah,
but Chick McGee had a podcast that I really liked. He was one of the first ones, and then I just kept going and listening to the sports ones. And, as much as I love sports, that's probably the least amount I listen to. I listen to Bill Simmons, I listen to Ryan Russillo, and that's about it sports wise. But then me and my friend we would have conversations during lunch when I worked at UT, and another friend of ours who was on here, his name's Kevin. He's like, man, this is you guys talk a lot. This would be good to have you guys had a podcast. And I was like, yeah, that would be cool. And we ended up turning it into a podcast, and it was good for a while. And then he couldn't do it. He started getting a family. He got a different job, and it just didn't work out. But it was a cool thing, and that's what really started. Oh, I can do this. This is something I can figure out how to edit. I can produce it while I'm talking to people and all that stuff. So after a while, I was like, all right, well, I'm going to keep doing it because it's fun, and I'll just change it into something else.
Yeah, it's funny because in having the conversation with my brother, I said, I think there's two sort of, things that really launched podcasts. And I think Serial being one, that was a big driver in people figuring out what this medium is and getting people interested in it. I think that was the first one. And then the spike in true crime, Serial was kind of the beginning, and then now you can go on Spotify and there's literally thousands of true crime stuff. And then I told him I think the second one was when Elon Musk smoked a joint on Rogan's podcast, and it affected his market space. And I thought that was I think those were the two things that showed how powerful podcasting was, and then from there it is what it is now. So those are my thoughts on it. It could be people probably have other. I think it probably started earlier than that, but that's when I started really noticing it or getting into it.
I know. Well, even with Joe Rogan, Bill Simmons even did it. There was a few other ones that were doing it in 2010. But
Simmons been doing it for a long time.
Yeah, who knows how do you know what's
exactly
gonna happen?
Exactly, and that's the thing. I think it's been going on before that, but I guess I'm putting it in my perspective, but that's when it caught my attention was those two moments. So
Oh, for sure, Serial. I feel like any other podcast I would listen to, then they would mention that or talk about it. Oh, have you seen this show or whatever?
Yeah.
So that definitely what did it for me. And it was so well done too.
It was great.
So you could do something like that and it not be well done, and then people don't like the information is good, but it's just not well done. And that's too when I figured out man, not only is just talking to people and having good content, but also having it sound good, because that's all it is.
Yeah.
You don't get, this one you get to look at people, but you just listen to it. So it has to sound good. There's some now where I will skip an episode if it's someone I'm not interested, or if it's a phone call.
Yeah.
Calling in, which, that happened all the time in the radio. That's how people talked. But I'm such a snob about it now, where I was I listened to one, Ryan Russillo talked to Jeff Van Gundy, and I really like Jeff Van Gundy, but he was on the phone. I was I'm going to listen to this because I like it, and they're going to have good content. But if it sounds bad, I was I can't do it.
Yeah, pandemic really hurt that, because then, a lot of stuff was through Zoom and Skype and whatnot. And, the content, you're still getting that same person, but it's just, it's challenging to listen to somebody on a phone or through Zoom, and then they have to project it onto their speakers and whatnot. So that's
why when we did the 3 different dads with Tyler and Jimmy, I have mics, so I bought a mic specifically, just a USB mic, not this whole setup where I can just use it for Zoom. And I told those guys, like, you guys got to get mics. Like, it sounds so much better when you have mics. And as soon as Tyler got one, I was like, this is amazing. Right? Jimmy, now Jimmy needs to get one. I don't know if he ever will.
Yeah,
but he needs to get one too because his audio isn't bad.
Right.
But now compared to me and Tyler, because we both have mics, it sounds worse.
Yeah,
you know.
yeah.
But it's you can tell when during the pandemic, the people who did it, professionally, or the people who are on radio, or all that like are on TV regularly, like they know, like here's the stuff we should buy.
Yeah, absolutely.
I did just last night watch another documentary called 137 Shots.
Yes, yeah, I watched that one. Is that the Cleveland one? Yeah, I watched that one a couple months back. That's one thing I like. As soon as they come out, I typically watch it like pretty quickly. So like I don't. It's the blessing and the curse because I get to watch it, but then it's like they just Netflix just released a Bernie Madoff one. It was 4 episodes, and I stayed home with Mason when he was sick on Wednesday, and we sat on the couch and I got through all 4 episodes in a day, and now I feel like God. Now I feel like I have nothing to watch, even though like there's thousands and thousands of hours of content. But I finished that, and I even told Rachel, I said, I'm not going to finish this for a few days. I'm gonna delay it. Yeah, and I finished it in one day. So.
But then that also plays the fact that it was really good.
It was great. Yeah, and I can tell within the first typically 3 minutes if I'm going to like a documentary or not. And I knew, being in like the business I'm in, I knew I was going to be interested. And then, it was just really well done. So, but yeah, the 137 Shots one, I had watched that a couple months ago based off a recommendation. And, that was tough watch. I remember that too because I think that was in 2012.
2012, yeah. I don't remember it happening.
Yeah, I remember it being on the news, and again, those are the type of documentaries that again are, if they're well done, they can hopefully make some sort of change. But yeah, that was a good one, and that it was just well done, and I think again hopefully brought some attention because I remember when that happened, and I knew it was in Cleveland. Yeah. So, but that I would have to rewatch that one because that's another thing too I do with documentaries. I like to rewatch a lot of them. Okay. Which is if they're really good, because there's a couple of them I rewatched over the weekend actually, and if they're really good, I'll rewatch them. Which a lot of people don't like think with documentaries that they're rewatchable like regular dramas, but I watch them like a regular fiction movie. So
well, like you said, it's you don't read books, and it's like a book. Yeah, right? It is. Yeah. So people reread books.
Yeah, and I shouldn't say don't read books. I listen to audiobooks.
No. I do not read. So I did listen to audiobooks for a while.
I still do, but they're like the audiobooks I listen to are they're typically nonfiction. So it's like Steven Tyler of Aerosmith's autobiography, or I listened to the Beastie Boys autobiography, like those type of memoirs, things like that is what.
Well, that's like a documentary too.
Exactly. It's I have a taste for something, so yeah.
Yeah, I just bought a book yesterday because I was listening to when I listened to Jeff Van Gundy, he talked about a book that he was reading by Joe Madden, the Rays manager. Okay. And Tom Verducci, who's a sports writer. But he said it was a really good book just about coaching. Yeah. And obviously I've been coaching football for a while. I'm coaching basketball this year, and I coach little kids, various sports. And like a lot of times those books aren't just like it's like about coaching, but it's also just broadly about, being a manager or CEO or some sort of supervisor. And that's my job too. Yeah. So I'm excited to grab, hopefully it comes in before we're going on vacation. So hopefully it comes in before that. So when I got downtime or just hanging out, I can pull it out when I'm on the beach.
I think that was the last time I actually read a book was on my honeymoon. Yeah. I think it was like, it was an autobiography. I know that, or a biography. It was Steve Jobs. I know that. Oh, okay. And so, that was like the last time I actually opened a book. And read the words instead of putting it on my headphones.
Well, I think because we both like documentaries so much, there might be something there where we can get together and figure something out. I think
I'd love
cool.
it. Again, that's my wheelhouse. I've seen probably way too many, but but I know a lot of them, and I know like people see like Steven Spielberg, Martin Scorsese. I know like the actual like documentary titans.
Documentaries.
Yeah, exactly. that I think are do good stuff.
So like if you see a director that you're like, whatever the subject is, you're like, this is gonna be good.
Yeah, like the Bernie Madoff one is a guy named Joe Berlinger, and he's been doing a lot of HBO documentaries, which are always great.
Yeah,
and I know his stuff he does a lot of true crime stuff. So, I've followed his trajectory, I guess, from early 90s to, I haven't been watching it then, but I know like his filmography from then. So yeah, again, nerd stuff.
It's perfect. That's exactly what it is. There was one I keep passing up, and it looks very interesting just by the title. It's just called Fungi.
Yeah,
but did you watch that one?
No, I've seen it, and that's where I kind of fall off is. I don't know what it's about, so I can't necessarily judge it. But like any sort of kind of food stuff that I'm a lot of people are into cooking and stuff like that, and I'm a terrible cook, and I never.
I'm thinking this is more of a nature based.
I'm sure it is, and even some of the nature stuff one.
I can watch any.
Yeah,
anything.
Yeah, I can too, to an extent. If it's just showing like Yellowstone and all, stuff like that, it's like, But if it's, Alex Honnold doing the free climbing, that I can watch.
Okay. Right.
So again, there has to be some sort of, I guess, subject or something going on aside of following moose around, which again people love, and I think it's pleasing in a sense that you get to see nature like that, but I need some sort of like subject doing something, I guess. I don't know. It's weird. Committing a crime. I don't know.
Well, there's
plenty of that.
And that and in Yellowstone, there's wolves tracking down moose. Mm-hmm. So maybe just that part.
There, of it. I guess you got to look at it differently, right?
Well, that's perfect banter for this podcast. Like obviously I like that kind of stuff. I like people like if they like right away, and most people do have something right away. They get puzzled by the question because nobody asked them usually. But it's good to like, I think it's healthy for people to like, yes, this is what I do away from work, or this is what I do with my significant other, you know, because this is what we enjoy, so that's good. You talked about moving around Perrysburg. Are you from this area?
So I'm not, no. So I went to Bowling Green for college. I went there from 2008 to 2012.
Okay.
And then that's where I met Rachel at Bowling Green, Falcon Flames and that whole thing. And
I was just there yesterday watching a basketball game.
Yeah, we don't get there as often as I would like. Just because I was there for 4 years. It was some of the greatest times of my life there, and formidable years, however you want to put it. And so I love going down and visiting. It's just hard, with Mason being 3, it's hard because there's not much to do there until he starts getting like really into sports. I think venture down for football games, basketball games, which is great. I mean, you got 2 D1 schools, Toledo and BG, 10 minutes away from here, so it's a nice kind of melting pot of sports. But so to answer your question, I did not grow up in Perrysburg. I've been living here. I was telling Rachel this, which is crazy. So I moved to BG when I was 18 to go to school, and then after freshman year, I went home for the summer, and then since sophomore year of college, I've not lived at home.
Where's home?
Yeah, so I grew up in New Bremen, Ohio, which is. So when I tell people about New Bremen, if you don't know it right away, I have to work down. So you lived in Ohio all your life, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So,
but when you texted me this, I never heard of it. So
yeah. So I'm assuming you may know Wapakoneta area. Mm-hmm. So I start there typically, depending on if you live from Ohio. If you're not from Ohio, I start with Lima.
Okay.
And then work down. So Wapakoneta, do you know St. Mary's?
No, I don't.
Okay, so it's about Bremen's about 25 minutes south, or southwest of Wapakoneta. So that's where I grew up.
I'm assuming it's a small.
It's a small
town,
town. Yeah, it's probably
Yeah.
about. Well, when I lived there, it was probably about 2,900 people.
Okay.
I compare it a lot to like around here, Waterville.
Yeah. Okay.
Swanton, Wauseon, those types of communities. So
Okay.
very much like that. Probably a little bit smaller, but
Did you play sports or anything there?
I did. Well, define play.
Were you on
I was
teams there?
involved in sports. Yeah. So from 7th grade to junior year, I played football.
Okay. Wait, so you went all the way to junior and this last year
Yeah,
you're just like, I'm done?
Well, yeah, there's not really a story to it. It's just so I again played involved in football from seventh grade to junior year, and I always tell people that was probably my biggest. I don't regret much stuff, but that was probably my biggest regret in high school was, not sticking it out senior year, and a couple reasons I didn't. One, I wasn't any good, so I was a guard, and I was much skinnier then, so that was kind of the position where they're like, all right, we're going to put you in there. You're not big enough to be a tackle.
Yeah.
You're not athletic enough to be anything else, so and you're probably quick enough to, pull around and attempt to make a block. So even though I think so, I'll say I was a late bloomer. So I was just I was pretty much the punching bag in football for years, and I haven't been around high school football for a long time. So we used to do sideline tackling drills where me holding the ball on the sideline, running this way, and then somebody coming at you full speed tackling you. And so what they would do is when it would be my turn, my friends would kind of switch places in line, and each take a turn just nailing me on the sideline. So again, I was kind of the punching bag for it, and but yeah, I played football until my junior year, and then to be honest with you, I was like, I was more interested in what was going on after the game than during the game. And so I thought to myself, well, I don't need to do the game. I could do what's going on after the game. And so and again, I think if I would have played my senior year, I probably would have started just for the fact of being a senior. And I did get bigger during that time. But yeah, it was just I wanted being immature and wanted to party. I guess I don't even want to say party. It was just
hang out,
right, and go to games and be immature and things like that. So that was it. There was no good reason for it. It was just I didn't feel I was any good, and again, it's something I regret, but that was years ago. So
yeah, well, a lot of times, just being a coach. I talked to my old head coach, and a lot of kids will regret not playing. Yeah, very few. I wouldn't say no kids, but very few regret playing.
Yeah. So it's a great point, and I should have again just stuck it out for another year. And
you're a kid. What do you know?
Yeah,
right?
exactly. Yeah. And it's
you know what you want right now, and right now you wanted to hang out with your buddies.
That was it. Yeah. And to be honest with you, I wasn't the only one who did that. There was a couple. We had a big senior class for our football team, and all the New Bremen, purist will probably call me out, but we had probably again I'd 20 some seniors returning, and then a lot of people kind of quit that senior year. And I think one of the reasons too, and I'm not trying to call anybody out, but we weren't good after this. Our freshman year was the furthest we ever went to the playoffs. And again, I can't recall who we beat and who we played. Again, the purist will come after me, but we beat one team, and then I think we lost the second round of the playoffs, maybe the third. again, I was on the sideline freezing my ass off. So I
You had bigger things.
I was trying to stay warm.
Yeah.
That's all I was doing. And so, and then we ended up losing to the team who actually won state that year. And so that was our first. We had went to the playoffs one other time before then, and they got beat the first round. Then I think we either beat 2 playoff teams, or I know we won one. So regardless, and after that we went. So my sophomore year we went 0-10. Then we went 2-8, and then senior year when I was off the team, they went 2-8 as well. And so again, it was kind of a decline. Our coach, who had been coaching the team for again X amount of years, it was I think almost 20, maybe a little less than that. I'm trying to not get called out, but he had retired because his sons were both done and moving on, and his son was a senior at that point, so he retired, and he'd been doing it for a long time anyway. And so we got a new coach, and from there you're going to have a decline, and when you get a bunch of talented seniors who graduate, it's bound to see again some sort of decline.
Sure, yeah.
So I think that was another thing too. A lot of people started leaving my senior year. It wasn't just me. There were others too, but again, just a decline in 0-10, 2-8, and
well, it's hard to keep kids when you're losing.
It is.
Yeah. No kid wants to be on a football team knowing they're going to lose.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's always optimism at the beginning of each season, but when you've had several seasons of losing, I mean, look at Maumee right now. Maumee's, I think their last 4 years they're like 1-39 or something.
Yeah.
So like it's tough to keep kids not only in your school. I know for Maumee and schools everywhere, when they're public schools, there's always Catholic schools around that will take your good kids, regardless of how good or bad you are. Yeah. So I can understand that. So did you do anything else, like any other activities or anything you did in high school that you enjoyed?
No, I mean, I was not in any other sports. It was funny because when you'd get your Letterman jacket, you tried to fill up the back with as much stuff, and I had football and weightlifting to add something to it, so it wasn't just one. I was not the only one who had that, by the way. But I never. I mean, I love basketball. I love the NBA actually. But I was never any good at basketball. Was in track like for a little bit, but I wasn't fast enough to be a runner, wasn't strong enough to be a shot putter. So, it was. I mean, football was about it, and that was because I really did enjoy doing it.
Yeah.
It's just, that was kind of the only thing, and then other than that, it was just goof around pretty much.
When you decided to go to BG, was there any other schools you were thinking about that, or you're just like, no, I know I want to go to BG?
There was one other school. It was Wright State in Dayton, and the only reason my brother went there, and that was kind of the only reason. But I applied there, and I got accepted to BG first. It was kind of who's going to accept me first, and I have a twin sister, so she also went to BG, and so that's again, and a lot of people from my grade. Who I graduated with went to BG as well.
That's how Perrysburg is.
Yeah, exactly. And so, and from here, I should say as well, Bremen from Perrysburg is about an hour and 45 minutes away.
Okay.
So from BG, it's about an hour and a half.
Yeah.
So you're far enough away from your family to where you feel like you're finally getting away from home.
Yeah.
But you're not like super far away either to where if you want to go home for a weekend and stuff like that. So that was kind of, it was one of those, it was a good area and good school. I mean, I love BG, and that was the kind of the driving force. It was far enough away to where I could, get freedom, I guess, and that type of thing. But also if I wanted to go home for any reason, I could. Did
you know what you wanted to do when you were a senior, or even when you started going to BG?
No, not really. Not at all, actually.
So I guess then, like, what was the draw to go to college? Just because, like, you're supposed to go to college.
Yeah, that, and so Bremen is very much a. I always say it's like very, very Mayberry, like still to this day, even.
Yeah.
It's a factory city, or town, not even a city, town, community, whatever. And So there's Crown Equipment Corporation, which is they make forklifts.
Scoot a little closer to that mic, will you?
What's that?
Just scoot a little
sorry.
closer.
Yeah. They make forklifts, and it's a factory that a lot of people in town, not so much anymore, but a lot of people in that town work at. So it's
those towns are always tough because
they are.
My dad's town is like that too.
Okay.
Where he's from in Texas, it's a meat plant.
Yep.
And they know they're the only thing. So they pay them so horribly too. I don't know how it is there, but they don't pay them very well.
Well,
but people need jobs.
Yeah, exactly. And it's privately owned, and it does well. So I think they, and again, I haven't lived in that town for years now, so I think they pay decent. I don't want to say, great wages, but decent enough to make a living for sure, especially around there. But again, that could change. But yeah, it was either that. So a lot of people, even back in 2008 when I graduated high school, a lot of people would either kind of work in town, so, factory type jobs, blue collar type jobs, or they would go to college, and I knew I didn't want to work in that setting.
Yeah.
Not because of pay or anything. It was more
I don't want to be here.
Correct, right, and that too. And I know people who've worked there a very long time, 20 some years, and they constantly bitch about it. And it's but they've been working there for so long, they don't want to make a change. And I get that, but it's also I don't want to, be 5 years down the road and all I do is complain about my job all day.
Yeah.
So that was, and I did want to be in education for a little bit. And BG's obviously a great education school.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what drew me there. But I knew I wanted to go to college for all the wrong reasons, reasons.
So how'd you figure out, what ultimately did you get your degree in, and how'd you figure that out?
So I kind of drifted away from education just because, I don't know, I never felt like I'd be a great teacher, even though right now I'm a team lead. So in my current company, I work at a financial services company, same place Tyler does.
Yeah.
And I'm a team lead now, so kind of a teacher, more coach, whatever you want to call it, leader. But I never thought I'd be a great teacher. People tell me they think I would be, but I kind of drifted away from that. And then I liked history a lot, and so I stuck with history. That was going to be a history teacher, but people always said that's the hardest one to get a job in. That, again, this is going back to 2008, so 2008, 2012, and people always said social studies was the hardest to get a job in.
Probably because there's just so many.
Right, exactly. And then so I'm okay, so I'll stick with history, but then I'm getting a history degree, but also I was interested in, again, documentaries, things like that. So I got two majors, history and popular culture, and I work in financial services. So pretty much your typical college story.
Yeah. I'm going to enjoy college and get a degree and then do something completely opposite.
Yeah. But I mean, a lot of, I met my wife at BG, met a lot of really good friends at BG who I'm still friends with today. Had I not gone there, I wouldn't be in this area. So, again, just because I didn't necessarily get the degree or whatever I wanted, I got all the experiences I wanted plus some.
Yeah.
I mean, I took full advantage of parties and all of that. And especially with not being away from family, and living in a house with a bunch of dudes, and it was a party city quite frequently, and we lived off Church Street. I mean, you went to BG, I believe. Yeah.
Well, for a little bit.
Oh, for a little bit. Okay. Well, that is.
I lived down there for 2 years though. So
we lived on Church Street. There's this horrible, I think it's green blue house. It's right behind the bars. It's right behind the library, actually.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And it's, if you look at it from the library at the parking lot, it's leaning. So the fact that it hasn't caved in or fallen apart or Thankfully, it hasn't. But because you can fit. I think there's 5 of us living in that house. So, but yeah, I think we caught 9 mice in the house, and the people who lived there after said there was a raccoon that had died in the basement and started to stink up the house.
Yeah, I lived with 3 other guys, and it was a lot of fun down there. Like you said, it was cool. It was my college experience, even though I didn't go to college at the time. I was just working, but it was really good. And then after that, I lived with Andrea for a year until she finished up school.
Nice.
Then we moved, but I liked it down there. And we, when we do go back, we always. Like just last night, I was with a buddy. He went to OU, and OU was playing BG in basketball. So we went and watched the game, and then we went and got breadsticks at Campus Poly Ice. Yeah. Because those are the best breadsticks everywhere. And their ranch is so good for whatever reason. Yeah. Also, if you're hearing banging, it's apparently clean day at the gym. So you could feel it, too. It's crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah. I'm digging the tunes that they're listening to. So.
Yeah. So, but yeah, so you go through college, you get your degrees. How'd you end up with the job you have then? I'm assuming there's there's entry level positions.
So there's after college, I was searching for pretty much anything, and I wanted to stay in the area. At that point, Rachel and I, again, we met at Bowling Green. We had been dating for quite a few years at that point, and then we moved in together in Bowling Green, and so. I was looking for, again, entry-level jobs, pretty much anything. And so I first went to, slinging insurance, as Tyler and I would put it. We were selling insurance.
I think that's why we have our life insurance.
Current
life insurance is we bought
hilarious.
From him.
Wow. Full circle. Yeah, that's funny. That's what I was doing and my father-in-law had worked at that. It's been a financial advisor for, I think, like 26 years now.
Okay.
And so he was working at the firm, but my in-laws live in Pittsburgh. But I started working at a firm in Toledo, and that's actually where I met Tyler. And so it was, again, my father-in-law had worked there. It was entry level. Thought it's a job, whatever.
Yeah.
And so I was selling insurance for about a little over a year, and that's where I got to know Tyler. And he left in about the middle of, I don't know, like in the summer, I think at the beginning of summer, and I left that job in like August or September. And so Tyler left, and at that point I knew, like, they say, by about the end of your first year, if you're going to make it or not. And I'm like, I know I'm not going to make it. I think I could have had I had maybe moved around a little bit, but at that point I'm like, this isn't going to work. So I actually texted Tyler. It was funny because I was with my sister. We were eating lunch, and I remember I told her, I said, I think I need a new job. She's like, well, who do you know around here? I said, well, I know Tyler. I worked with him. He's a friend of mine. And she's like, why don't you just text him, see if he has a job?
Yeah.
And sure enough, that's what I did. I texted him. I said, hey, I knew he had moved on to a job that I thought he had liked. And the big thing was it wasn't commission-based. It was salary. And that's all I cared about. And so I texted him like, hey, man, you guys hiring? And he's like, yeah, we are actually. I'm like, wow, that's perfect timing. And fortunately for me, I came cheap because, in my opinion, they were hiring people who were way more qualified than me. I think they had a lawyer submit his application and a couple other people with more experience, but I came cheap, so they hired me, and now I've been working at the company for almost 8 years.
Okay,
so,
wow.
Yeah, so a long time. That was in 2014, and still doing it. So, and then I think the biggest thing is, I work with a lot of people that I'm really good friends with now, still good friends with, and that's how it all kind of fell into place.
Yeah.
So.
Are you? I know, obviously during the pandemic, you guys had to move home. Are you still working from home?
I am. Yeah.
How is it? So I've had jobs where it's outside. I can never work from home. This one now, my current position, I can work home from home a little bit because I'm a supervisor. So I can, if I got to stay home because my kid's sick, I don't have to take a day off. I can just, hey, call or text or email me. I'm available.
Yeah.
But is it? And the reason I'm asking is because my wife might have to work from home.
Yeah.
And so we're like creating. I was like, well, we got to create you an office. Right now, she sits on the edge of our spare bedroom bed with the ironing board as her desk.
Wow. Okay.
So, because it happens sometimes.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
So now we got to create an office for it. That transition, was there a point where you're like, all right, this is probably going to be normal, and we got to put some money into me being able to work comfortably from home?
Yeah. So Rachel works from home as well. So, and she's kind of like she has flexibility in her job. She's a counselor. She teaches at Palo Alto. So she has a lot of flexibility in her job, and working, remotely and things like that. For me, we always could work. I wouldn't say could work from home. There was an option there. So like occasionally when we got a bad snowstorm and it was like a level 3, our boss would say, because we can connect remotely from our laptops. And occasionally if there was a bad storm, he would come in and he would be like, you guys can work from home. So it was like twice in like the first 6 years I was working at the company. So that was always an option. Then when the pandemic did happen, our company was going through like a transition in general. So like basically our company got bought out by another company.
Yeah.
And so we were going through like a transitional phase to begin with. And then the pandemic happens and they were going to close our office. I mean, just in general. So that working from home, I knew was going to be something that, I mean, that was either, they were either going to say move here or find a new job. So I was like, well, hopefully working from home is what is the route they take, and it was. But yeah, I'm good with it now, just because it was challenging for a while because I was so used to going in and seeing everybody that I worked with for years and interacting with them day to day, and it was always great because that was the biggest thing I loved about work is because I always had a blast. I would laugh my ass off all the time just because Tyler was my boss and then we had 2 other people and we just goofed around a lot. Yeah. Probably more than should have. But
that's part of I think if bosses shut it down, then that's just one less thing that your workers enjoy about work or don't enjoy. There can be some fun times, there can be downtime, there can be hanging out, whatever.
Yeah, and I think the big thing was it was just adjusting to not being around people, which I think that was the case for a lot of people. But that was the big thing. It was just adjusting to being alone, not being able to walk over to somebody's office and chit chat with them for a little bit. And I still miss that. I've been working from home now for almost 3 years, which is insane to think about. It'll be 3 years in March, which is, crazy. And a lot of benefits to it. Like what I'm wearing now is what I go down to work in. Don't have to worry about grooming. I never really worried about that in general. How casual attire. I mean, that was kind of non-existent too, but I always dress like a schlub, but yeah.
How is it because you both work from home? How is it? Because I know sometimes people always say I've heard people say you don't want to work with your spouse because you're already live with them and sleep in the same bed, this and that. Is there points in your day where it is you are at work where you don't see each other anyway, or are you always
100%? Okay. So she has her own office space on the second floor, and then mine is in the basement.
Okay.
And I mean, literally most of the day we never see each other.
Okay.
All right. Occasionally, but yeah, I mean, she's in Zoom meetings, I'm in meetings. It's funny because a lot of people think when you work from home, you're going to be distracted all the time, which was kind of the case for a little bit before Mason started going to daycare. But I mean, if you work, you're working. I never have the TV on. I'll occasionally have a podcast on and I'm listening, but
you would do that in the office anyway.
Right, exactly. I would have radio on or something like that, but I mean, never have the TV on. I mean, there's some points where I still, even like I would in the office, I don't eat lunch. So it's like, it's funny how I think people's, oh shit, I'm working from home, I can do whatever. It's like, well, if you're working, you can't do whatever. It's like, yeah. I mean, if you're not working, then but then you got other problems. But yeah, it's like another job. You just don't have to get dressed up or drive in a commute, basically. So yeah.
I know it is different when I'm home because we're doing projects or stuff outside. I don't sit in a lot of meetings. There are some, and I do enjoy meetings. I don't know why some people think I'm crazy, but I like going to meetings and talking to people. I mean, I have this podcast where I talk to people.
Right.
So I do enjoy that part of it. But if there's no meetings for the day, then if I'm home, there's not a lot I can do. I mean, I answer phone calls and emails, and I can do budget stuff, or I can do time card things, or there's certain things. So for me, especially if my kid's sick, then it is just me sitting with them or making sure they're okay. And I'm like, I got to take this phone call real quick, and it's 30 seconds. Yeah, I got to answer this email real quick or whatever. So it's a lot different, but that's just the nature of our jobs, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. And I think once Mason gets a little older, he's 3, so once he's self-sufficient, essentially, for the go around the house and not, watch TV, do whatever. Then I think because whenever he's sick now, I can't work and take care of him at the same time. It's impossible to now. But once he gets older and again is a little more kind of self-sufficient, then if he is sick, I think I can work from home and it can be manageable. But for a little while before he went to daycare, we had him at home, and it was tough. That was tough working and having him home because he was 2 and 1.5, 2, and it was like that was challenging because that's when they really need you at that point. And it's like you can't really work and then do that too. So
even when they get older, my wife always saves notes because when they were home from school, she was the one who would stay home.
Right.
With them. I would stay home every once in a while. I think I got on a certain schedule with my boss saying, hey, I got it.
Right.
My wife's going to go crazy if she can't.
Right.
If she has to stay home. So we kind of worked out
a
schedule here where I could be home too. But she would save, like when she was on a call with work, our kids, then they're older. She would save all these poorly written notes, like hey, can I have a snack with snack spelled wrong, or Mateo won't let me watch TV, like slid these notes across the table as she's trying to train people or talk to people.
That's awesome.
So even when they get older, they're still other things to deal with. But yes, it is one of those things where if they are sick, checking on them every once in a while.
Right, exactly.
Exactly. When there's 2 of them, there's always something else.
Oh, trust me, I believe that. Yeah.
So I do enjoy it's obviously not now because it's winter, but I like when you guys stop by every once in a while when you're on your walks. We've given you several of our baby things, which is good for us.
Yeah.
We're getting, at least it's the same thing with the truck. Like I know someone's going to use it and they're using it.
Yeah.
And they're going to love it too. So I do like that part of it. And I tried to give Rachel our John Deere motorized thing, but she's like, is it remote control? I was like, no. He goes, he's not ready for one of those yet.
Yeah, we got one that it is remote.
That
control.
Is so. I didn't when you guys were driving around with that. I was like, oh, he's a good driver. But then I realized they're holding something.
Oh yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah, it's great. I didn't even know those existed until my so my nephew is 3 weeks older than Mason is. So they actually we combine their birthdays together. It just makes stuff a lot easier. Especially because me and Rachel are the only ones in our families who live away from our families. So, meaning I live an hour and a half from where I grew up, and her growing up in Pittsburgh lives 3.5 hours. Wow. So we're the only ones out of each of our individual families who live not in like a 5-minute, 10-minute proximity of where we, our parents and where we grew up and stuff like that. So we try to make it manageable for everybody and try to accommodate. But my sister had one of those. She got it for her son, the remote control ones. And I told Rachel, I said, we really need one of those because Mason loves his little trucks, but he would always borrow our neighbors, and especially with the one road that we live off, Simmons, that people just fly on that thing, and it's busy, and with the country club right down the road and all, and I'm like, yeah, it's hard to chase him around, and he can't stay confined in our yard. He likes driving in our yard, but he wants to explore. So we got him one of those, and God, it's been great.
It's really cool. Yeah.
It is. It's wonderful because you can control it, and he likes riding around in it, and we get to get out and feel safe. So
speaking of that, I don't know if you knew about it. That Simmons Road, that big open field.
Yeah,
they're supposed to build some condos and stuff there.
Yeah, our neighbors, they told us about that, and Rachel was actually at the community thing that they had for it to protest it, I guess.
Yeah.
Like our neighbors are not big fans of it. I don't know. I mean, I'm not big fan of it either, but that's probably just selfishly. But I mean, I don't know. It just feels like then I guess it's not a little community area anymore. You're just
100%.
shoving people into these apartment complexes, and that road's already congested enough in the mornings, let alone adding however many apartment complexes that they want to put in there. It's just going to be a madhouse. I don't know if they're going to do it or not. I don't know Perrysburg politics that much and try to stay out of it as much as possible.
Sure.
Especially those community pages. I'm on them, but they're hilarious to
people complain about certain stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I tried posting something to it a while back that was immature. I sent it to Tyler, and he told me to post it.
Yeah.
And they didn't. They
didn't let it through?
The admin didn't let it through. It was. That's one of the things about me is like I have a really immature sense of humor, and so when I meet new people, I'm always kind of shy and reserved just because I don't know how they're going to take my sense of humor.
Yeah.
And again, it's just more just because I think it's funny and, again, very immature, very high school, as Rachel puts it. It's a high school maturity. I'll laugh at stupid stuff. And
Sure.
So I sent it to Tyler, and it was something stupid. And he's like, yeah, you should post it on there. So I did, and they didn't allow it. So
You're like, well, I tried.
yeah, I did try. They did kick me off the page, so that's mission accomplished, I guess. It just didn't get through. So, but yeah, I'm not into like if they put that complex in, it's like okay, whatever. I prefer they don't, but if it goes through, then it's out of my control.
Yeah. Well, and you also can't really tell people what to do with their property, right?
Right, exactly. Somebody purchased it, and they're going to do what they want with it, and I would again prefer it to kind of stay as it is, but can't control it, right?
No. Well, Mike, thanks for coming in today.
Yeah.
One more time before we go, we are recording at Fort Meigs CrossFit Studios. If you need any more information about what they do here, the classes they offer, all different age ranges, check out fortmeigscrossfit.com. Mike, thanks again for coming in today.
Yeah, appreciate it. Thanks, Lorenzo.
Thanks, everybody, for checking out this episode of the Nerdball podcast. Please rate, review, and subscribe wherever you're hearing this, on any of the podcatchers, on YouTube. Hit that subscribe button so you never miss an episode. We're coming at you 2 times a week now, audio and video. Check us out on all the social medias. Just search the Nerdball Podcast on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. We're out there. Gmail is the nerdballpodcast@gmail.com. If you want to shoot us an email, we'll be happy to get back to you. Thanks to Real JP Multimedia, Cuttlefish Graphics, Perrysburg Junior High STEM Lab, and Big Daddy Graphics for helping out the podcast. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.